In the heart of Dubai, Jacob Bennett, heir to a powerful family empire, seems to have everything: a vast fortune, deep family roots, and a future carefully planned out for him. Yet Jacob feels a void, a longing for something real and unburdened by duty. When he meets Sarah, a compassionate and ambitious woman from a humble background, he's drawn into a world he never knew he needed. But life at the top isn't so simple. As they grow closer, Jacob is pulled back by his family's expectations, public scrutiny, and a legacy that feels more like a cage. Together, Jacob and Sarah embark on a journey to build a life and a legacy that defies tradition, creating a community where love, unity, and opportunity can thrive. But as they push boundaries and face unexpected tests, they must decide: how much will they sacrifice for the future they believe in? If this sounds like the kind of story that resonates with you, hit subscribe and dive in with us. And let us know in the comments, what would you risk to make your dreams a reality? Now, let's step into the world of Jacob and Sarah and watch as their dreams take shape in the sands of Dubai. Jacob Bennett grew up in a world of extravagance that many could only imagine. The sprawling Bennett estate in Dubai was his kingdom from birth, a place where he wanted for nothing, except perhaps something he couldn't quite name. The halls were gilded, the gardens endless, and even the air felt weighted with the heritage of a family legacy in the oil industry that spanned generations. His father, Henry Bennett, was a figure both formidable and respected, the driving force behind the Bennett wealth. But with each year, Jacob felt a strange void inside himself, a whisper that he struggled to ignore amidst the glitter of the only life he knew. Despite the luxuries, Jacob longed for something real. It was an ache that only grew each time he explored the estate's library, an enormous room lined floor to ceiling with leather-bound books and ancient maps. From a young age, he'd lose himself in tales of distant lands, stories about lives lived for passion rather than duty. His favorite books were those of explorers who left everything behind in search of meaning. As he grew older, Jacob's desire to experience life beyond Dubai became a powerful, almost rebellious need. Tradition was something the Bennetts valued as much as wealth. The family was deeply rooted in customs, and one of the most significant was Jacob's arranged engagement to Emily Foster, the daughter of his father's oldest friend. Emily had been in Jacob's life since they were children, more like a sister than a romantic partner, yet their fate had been sealed by the wishes of their families. Evelyn Bennett, Jacob's mother, had always reminded him that this was his duty. "A bond like this preserves our legacy, Jacob," she would say gently. "Emily understands our family. She is someone you can trust." Emily was beautiful, kind, and devoted, yet Jacob found himself wishing for more each time he looked at her. She shared the same feeling, an understanding born from years of shared experiences, but not love. Both felt bound by an unspoken contract. Despite their quiet resignation, each meeting brought an unspoken question between them. Could either of them truly find love in an arranged marriage, or would they only ever find companionship? As Jacob neared his 18th birthday, the pressure to commit to his family's path intensified. At each family gathering, the questions loomed, pressing him closer to the life that had been chosen for him. Yet, as he studied finance with private tutors, he secretly dreamed of a life abroad. New York, London, Paris, all places he'd read about in books, seemed to offer the kind of freedom he'd never known. One evening, after a particularly tense dinner discussing his future with Emily, Jacob finally gathered the courage to speak up. He approached his father with a request that he knew might shake their world. He wanted to study in the United States. Henry, taken aback, considered his son's request with a mix of pride and caution. "It's a dangerous world outside our walls, Jacob. But perhaps there is something there you can learn and bring back to us." Though reluctant, Henry agreed, hoping the experience would teach Jacob not just knowledge, but the importance of returning home. The days before his departure were filled with mixed emotions. Evelyn wept at the thought of her son leaving, fearing he might be swept away by a foreign culture and forget the family that shaped him. Emily, though outwardly supportive, held back her own feelings, aware that their relationship was in uncharted territory. On the morning Jacob was to leave, she approached him quietly, handing him a small, leather-bound notebook. "Write down everything you see," she said with a faint smile, "and bring back stories for those of us who may never leave here." As Jacob boarded the plane, a sense of freedom washed over him. He was finally stepping away from the life he'd always known. The golden sands and towering skyline of Dubai faded from view, replaced by endless clouds, and with each mile, the weight of expectation lifted. For the first time, he allowed himself to dream of something beyond legacy, beyond duty, a life where he could define his own path. New York City was a shock to Jacob's system. The streets pulsed with energy, alive with people from every corner of the globe. He felt small among the towering buildings, yet strangely liberated by the anonymity. Living in a modest apartment near his university, Jacob found himself embracing a new simplicity. He cooked his own meals, took the subway, and joined classmates who knew him not as Jacob Bennett, the heir to a fortune, but as simply Jacob, another student. His studies in finance came alive in ways he hadn't anticipated, not just through textbooks, but through the people he met. He befriended students from all walks of life. Alex, a spirited economics major from Detroit, and Marie, a poet from Brooklyn who saw beauty in everything. These friendships became his anchor, teaching him the value of authenticity and resilience. For the first time, he felt that life was a journey he could shape himself. As he neared the end of his final year, Jacob's newfound life was unexpectedly shaken. He received news that his fiancée, Emily, and her mother had decided to visit him in the United States, a trip that surprised but also delighted him. They had booked a flight to arrive just before his graduation, and he prepared eagerly, feeling a renewed fondness for the life he'd left behind. However, just days before their arrival, tragedy struck. The plane carrying Emily and her mother went missing over the Atlantic. Authorities declared it lost, with no survivors. Jacob was devastated, the news crashing over him like a storm, leaving him numb with guilt and sorrow. For days, he wandered the streets of New York, struggling to comprehend a world that suddenly seemed hollow and cruel. His grief became a burden he bore alone, his spirit broken by the loss of a life he'd been tied to and never truly embraced. In the solitude of his apartment, he resolved to remain in America, unable to face the painful memories waiting for him back in Dubai. He buried himself in work, refusing to acknowledge the ache left by the tragedy that had stolen both Emily and any possibility of returning to the life he once knew. Years passed, and Jacob forged a new life in America, one far removed from the opulent world of his past. He became known as a skilled financial analyst, respected for his intellect and dedication. Yet despite his achievements, a quiet loneliness lingered. He had kept his heart closed, haunted by memories he couldn't shake. One evening, while working late, Jacob met Sarah Lawson, a receptionist who worked in his building. Sarah was warm, with a disarming smile that reminded him of the simple joys he'd long forgotten. She was nothing like the people from his past. She valued sincerity over wealth, kindness over prestige. In Sarah, Jacob saw a flicker of something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years: hope. Their connection grew slowly, marked by shared laughter, meaningful glances, and the comfort of someone who understood him without expectation. With Sarah, Jacob felt a new kind of freedom, a love built on honesty and acceptance rather than duty or tradition. For the first time, he let himself imagine a future untethered by the weight of his family name. Jacob's life in New York continued to evolve in unexpected ways. With Sarah by his side, he found himself rediscovering a part of himself he thought he'd left behind. They shared simple joys, late-night strolls through the city, quiet dinners in her modest apartment, and hours spent talking about everything and nothing. For the first time, Jacob felt a sense of home in a person rather than in a place. Their connection deepened as they shared stories of their lives. Jacob opened up about his family in Dubai, though he kept the full scope of his wealth and his engagement a secret, hesitant to let the past overshadow the man he was trying to become. Sarah, too, shared her dreams and challenges. She'd grown up in a small town, working her way through college to support her family. Her humility and determination inspired Jacob, who saw in her a quiet strength that he deeply admired. As Jacob delved into his work and grew closer to Sarah, he began to change. The polished high society heir to the Bennett fortune was replaced by someone who valued the worth of hard work and empathy. He took up volunteering on weekends, assisting at a local shelter Sarah introduced him to. The experience grounded him, connecting him to people whose lives were far from the wealth and privilege he'd known. Sarah noticed his growth, too, admiring the ways he gave back to the community without expecting recognition. They spent weekends exploring the city's hidden corners, discovering vibrant neighborhoods, trying new foods, and occasionally stopping to listen to street musicians. Jacob felt a profound joy in these ordinary moments, a feeling that reminded him of the adventure he'd once dreamed of. Months passed, and Jacob realized that his feelings for Sarah were more profound than he'd allowed himself to imagine. Their relationship was gentle and genuine, built on trust rather than expectation. She didn't demand grand gestures or extravagant gifts. Her happiness lay in moments of shared understanding and support. One night, while walking along the Brooklyn Bridge, Jacob gathered his courage and confessed his feelings. "Sarah," he said, voice unsteady, "I never thought I'd find someone who understands me as you do. You make me feel alive, and I can't imagine my life without you." Sarah, touched by his honesty, reached for his hand, her smile warm and understanding. "Jacob, I feel the same way. You're a wonderful man, not because of where you came from, but because of who you are." From that moment, their bond grew deeper. And for the first time, Jacob allowed himself to believe in a love that was unburdened by duty or tradition. They became inseparable, their relationship a sanctuary that brought them both peace and joy. Just as Jacob's life seemed to settle into this newfound peace, an unexpected message arrived. His mother, Evelyn, called with somber news. His father, Henry, had fallen gravely ill. The family needed him, she said, hinting that his absence had been felt deeply. Hearing his mother's voice brought back a wave of emotions. Memories of his father, a man who had shaped his life with pride and expectations, surfaced. Though he had distanced himself, Jacob knew he couldn't ignore his family in their time of need. Sarah, seeing his turmoil, encouraged him to go back and make peace with his past. "Jacob," she said softly, "sometimes going back is the only way to move forward." With a heavy heart, Jacob decided to return to Dubai. He promised Sarah he would come back as soon as he could, but as he boarded the plane, he couldn't shake the feeling that life was pulling him in a direction he hadn't anticipated. The sight of Dubai's skyline was both familiar and strange to Jacob. The city had grown even more opulent, reaching new heights, yet Jacob felt like a stranger within its borders. Returning to the Bennett estate, he was greeted by his mother, who embraced him with a mixture of relief and sadness. Evelyn's once stern demeanor softened, and Jacob saw in her eyes the weight of their shared loss and unspoken expectations. Henry was weak, bedridden, but his mind remained sharp. The old man called Jacob to his side, speaking to him in a hoarse whisper about the importance of family, legacy, and honor. "Our name, Jacob, it stands for something. It's more than wealth. It's history, tradition. I need you to carry it forward." Jacob, though conflicted, could feel the depth of his father's love beneath the words. He promised to fulfill his father's final wish, though a part of him longed for the simpler life he had found with Sarah. As he left his father's bedside, a sense of duty resurfaced within him, mingling with the love he felt for his family. Assuming his father's role came with its own challenges. Evelyn was supportive, but subtly insistent that he should stay and continue the family's legacy. She mentioned the responsibility he had to their business and to the countless families that depended on it. The Bennett oil empire was more than just a company. It was a lifeline for the people of Dubai and a cornerstone of his family's identity. Despite his mother's encouragement, Jacob felt the weight of his own aspirations colliding with those of his family. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was betraying himself, especially as he spent nights working on plans to modernize the business, to introduce sustainable practices that would prepare them for a changing world. His ideas were met with resistance, particularly from senior executives who feared that Jacob's vision would disrupt their long-standing traditions. In his moments of doubt, Jacob found himself thinking of Sarah. She had seen him for who he was rather than for what he represented. Her absence felt like a void, and he wondered if he could ever bridge the gap between the world he had left behind and the life he wanted to build with her. As the days passed, Jacob found himself torn between duty and desire. The familiar pull of family weighed on him, but his love for Sarah was undeniable. Evelyn, though loving, made her disapproval of Sarah's background known in subtle ways. "Jacob," she would say with a quiet sigh, "your heart has always been strong, but this is a life built on foundations we must preserve." During a gala event, Jacob noticed how differently he was perceived by Dubai's elite. Friends and business partners treated him with a level of respect and expectation that felt stifling. In their eyes, he was the heir to a legacy, a man bound to tradition and wealth. The realization that Sarah would face similar pressures if she were to join him in Dubai brought an ache to his chest. Jacob began to question whether he could bring Sarah into this world, or if he would have to leave it all behind to be with her. One evening, after a long day of meetings and family obligations, Jacob retreated to the quiet of his childhood room. He stared at the walls adorned with memories of a life that felt distant, conflicted over his next step. In a moment of clarity, he decided he could not abandon his family's legacy entirely, nor could he forsake his love for Sarah. Taking a deep breath, Jacob reached for his phone and called Sarah. He confessed the weight of his responsibility, the difficulty of balancing his family's expectations with his love for her. Sarah listened with patience and understanding, her voice a source of comfort. "Jacob," she said gently, "I love you for who you are, not for what you have. I want to build a life with you, wherever that might be." Her words gave Jacob a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that the life he wanted was one where he could honor his family's legacy while forging his own path with Sarah by his side. He resolved to find a way to blend both worlds, to create a life where tradition and love could coexist. Back in Dubai, Jacob immersed himself in the operations of the Bennett family business. The oil empire his father had built was vast and influential, with connections that spanned industries and continents. Despite his intentions to modernize, Jacob faced resistance from the board, whose members had long valued tradition over change. The older executives viewed him with a mixture of respect and skepticism, aware of his ambitions to pivot the company toward renewable energy sources. Jacob proposed a plan to gradually introduce sustainable practices. His suggestions were met with caution from the board, who feared this new direction would diminish their profits. Despite their resistance, Jacob held firm, determined to lead the business toward a future he believed was both profitable and responsible. His resolve grew, but so did the emotional strain as he balanced his family's legacy with his commitment to a new vision for the company. As Jacob's involvement in the family business deepened, whispers began circulating among Dubai's elite circles about his life in New York. Word of his relationship with Sarah trickled through the upper class, fueled by speculation. At high society events, friends and associates approached him with subtle yet probing questions about her. The gossip stirred feelings of self-doubt within Jacob, which only worsened under his mother's quiet disapproval of Sarah's background. One evening, after a particularly tense family dinner, Evelyn voiced her concerns. "Jacob," she began, her tone restrained, "your father's legacy demands a partner who understands the weight of our name. I fear that Sarah, as wonderful as she may be, won't be able to bear that weight." Jacob struggled with his response, torn between his love for Sarah and the loyalty he felt toward his family. The tension between his heart and his heritage created a lingering uncertainty, sowing seeds of doubt that would only deepen in the coming days. As Jacob delved into company records, he uncovered a section of his father's journal tucked away in an old file. To his surprise, Henry had recorded reflections about his own conflicts between family duty and personal desires. The entries revealed a side of his father he had never known, a man torn between love for his family and the sacrifices he had made to uphold the family legacy. One entry struck him deeply. Legacy is more than wealth, Jacob. It's the values we leave behind, the lives we uplift, and the future we create. Reading his father's words, Jacob felt a renewed determination to honor his family's legacy while pursuing his own vision. He realized that his father might have understood more than he had ever let on, and this understanding gave him the strength to keep pushing forward, even in the face of resistance from those around him. Jacob decided to invite Sarah to visit him in Dubai. He missed her deeply, and he wanted her to experience his world. Sarah arrived with a mixture of excitement and anxiety, aware of the world she was entering. Their reunion was warm and tender, but as they began attending events together, Sarah felt the scrutiny of Jacob's social circle. At an exclusive gala, Sarah was met with polite yet pointed questions about her background. She answered gracefully, yet the constant undercurrent of judgment made her uncomfortable. Despite Jacob's reassurances, Sarah began to doubt her place in his life. The divide between them seemed to grow with every encounter, and she wondered if their love could withstand the pressures of his world. In a quiet moment that evening, Sarah admitted her insecurities. "Jacob, I don't know if I belong here. The way they look at me, as if I don't deserve you." Jacob, saddened by her words, held her close. "You're the only one who truly sees me, Sarah. Don't let their opinions diminish what we have." Yet as much as they loved each other, both felt the weight of the obstacles ahead. Over time, Jacob began to notice a shift in Sarah's behavior. She would often leave for long stretches, giving vague explanations that seemed unlike her. Concerned but hesitant to pressure her, he quietly wondered if the pressures of his world had driven her to seek comfort elsewhere. He battled his doubts, fearing that confronting her might damage their fragile bond. Finally, unable to bear the uncertainty, Jacob confided in Alex, his longtime friend from university. "I'm losing her, Alex. I can feel it, but I don't know what to do." Alex, always a voice of reason, encouraged Jacob to trust Sarah, but also to face his doubts openly. "Relationships can't survive without trust, Jacob. If you love her, ask her what's going on." Taking Alex's advice, Jacob decided to follow Sarah one afternoon when she left the mansion. Disguised in a simple cap and sunglasses, he trailed her to the edge of the city, where she entered a modest home in a working-class neighborhood. Heart-pounding, Jacob's mind raced with dark possibilities, each scenario more painful than the last. Jacob watched from a distance as Sarah embraced an elderly man who greeted her at the door. He immediately felt a wave of relief, followed by shame at his own mistrust. He approached the house cautiously, hoping for a moment of clarity. When Sarah saw him, she was startled but quickly softened, recognizing the pain in his eyes. She led him inside, where she introduced him to David Lawson, her father, a retired carpenter who had raised her on his own. Sarah explained that she had kept his existence private out of respect for his wish to avoid the scrutiny of Jacob's world. Her father, with a gentle voice, spoke up. "Sarah wanted to protect you, Jacob. I told her to keep me a secret, thinking it might spare you any judgment." Overcome by the honesty and simplicity of the life Sarah had kept hidden, Jacob felt a deep remorse. He realized how much he had let others' prejudices cloud his view of her. Kneeling before Sarah, he took her hand, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I should have trusted you more. I let the doubts of others get in my way." Sarah, her own eyes filled with tears, forgave him, their love renewed through the power of understanding and honesty. Returning to the mansion with Sarah and her father, Jacob felt a sense of peace he hadn't known before. He introduced David to his mother, Evelyn, who was initially reserved but softened upon seeing the love between Jacob and Sarah. David's humility and warmth made an impression on her, challenging her own long-held views on class and tradition. For the first time, the mansion felt less like a fortress of tradition and more like a home united by shared values. The walls that had once separated worlds were beginning to break down, and Jacob felt hopeful that they could forge a life together despite society's expectations. Buoyed by their reconciliation, Jacob proposed to Sarah in the simplest, most heartfelt way. They stood under the quiet desert sky, surrounded by stars, and he expressed his desire to build a life that honored both their worlds. He offered no grand ring or elaborate gesture, just a promise of love built on honesty and mutual respect. Sarah, overwhelmed, accepted, and their engagement became a quiet declaration of love amidst the noise of wealth and status. When word spread through Dubai, society reacted with a mix of admiration and skepticism, but Jacob no longer cared about the whispers. He had found a partner who loved him for who he was, and he was determined to protect that love at all costs. Their wedding was a unique blend of simplicity and elegance, honoring the traditions of Dubai while embracing the warmth of Sarah's humble roots. The celebration was a gathering of friends and family from all walks of life, a true merging of worlds. Evelyn, once skeptical, offered her heartfelt blessing, acknowledging the love that had softened her own heart. David, too, was welcomed into the family, bringing with him the quiet wisdom of a life lived with integrity. As Jacob and Sarah exchanged vows, he felt the weight of both his legacy and his love blend into something new, a future he had once thought impossible. With their marriage and love reaffirmed, Jacob and Sarah began to turn their attention towards something greater, a shared vision for the future. Inspired by Sarah's compassionate approach to life, Jacob felt a strong urge to use his family's resources for meaningful change. He began discussing plans to transform the family business, looking beyond oil to embrace sustainable practices that would benefit Dubai and, eventually, the world. Eager to make a difference, Sarah suggested starting a foundation to help underprivileged women in Dubai gain access to education and employment. Imagine what we could achieve if we helped others rise above the limits society places on them, she said, her eyes filled with a passionate hope. Jacob wholeheartedly agreed, and together they began planning what would soon become the Bennett Foundation, a project that aimed to empower women from all backgrounds. As Jacob shared his vision with the board of the family company, he faced immediate resistance. The senior executives, most of whom had worked under his father's conservative leadership, were wary of his proposed changes. While they respected Jacob, they couldn't understand why he would risk the company's profitable legacy for the sake of ideals they saw as modern whims. One evening, after a particularly tense meeting, Richard, the eldest board member, voiced his concerns directly. "Jacob, we're here to generate wealth, not to play social savior. Your father built this empire on principles of profit and efficiency, not charity." Jacob, though frustrated, kept his voice calm. "My father believed in creating a lasting legacy, one that extends beyond wealth. Times have changed, and we need to adapt if we want the Bennett name to mean something for generations to come." The room fell silent, and though few agreed openly, Jacob sensed a shift. He knew the path he'd chosen wouldn't be easy, but with Sarah's unwavering support, he was ready to face whatever came next. As word of the Bennett's philanthropic efforts spread, Dubai's elite began to talk. Many were impressed by Jacob's vision and admired his commitment to progressive ideals, but others questioned his choices, unable to comprehend why he would risk his wealth and reputation for the sake of social causes. At a high society gala, Sarah noticed the sidelong glances and polite but probing questions. Guests seemed curious, yet wary of her work with the foundation. Amelia Caldwell, a prominent figure known for her strict adherence to tradition, approached Sarah and, with a smile that held a hint of judgment, remarked, "It's interesting, the work you're doing. But don't you think it's a bit ambitious for someone with your background?" Sarah felt a familiar pang of self-doubt, but she held her ground. "I believe in creating opportunities for everyone, regardless of their background. I think that's something we can all agree is worth fighting for." Jacob, overhearing the conversation, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Together, they navigated the evening, but the pressure of public scrutiny weighed on them both, making them realize that the journey ahead would test not only their ideals but their unity. The whispers and criticisms took their toll on Sarah, who began to question whether she truly belonged in Jacob's world. Each event, each meeting with high society, left her feeling isolated, as though she would forever be seen as an outsider despite her love for Jacob and her genuine desire to make a difference. Sensing her struggle, Jacob proposed a quiet weekend getaway to a desert retreat outside the city. Under the stars, they spoke openly about their fears, their hopes, and the challenges they faced. Jacob, sometimes I feel like I'm drowning under the weight of others' expectations. I don't want my presence to undermine your family's legacy, Sarah admitted, her voice laced with emotion. Jacob took her hands in his gaze steady. Sarah, my family's legacy is empty without you. Together, we're creating a new legacy, one of compassion and equality. I don't want to do this alone, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. His words gave her strength, and they returned to Dubai with renewed resolve, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. With the Bennett Foundation gaining traction, Sarah found herself busier than ever. She oversaw programs that provided job training and educational scholarships to women from disadvantaged backgrounds, working closely with local communities to ensure the foundation's efforts were meaningful and impactful. However, as the foundation's visibility increased, so did the scrutiny. Certain groups in society began to criticize the foundation's approach, with some accusing it of challenging traditional gender roles. Omar Hassad, a conservative business figure, publicly expressed his concerns in a media interview, suggesting that the foundation's work was unnecessary meddling. The criticism struck a nerve, and Jacob found himself defending the foundation's mission at several board meetings and public events. But instead of discouraging him, the pushback only fueled his determination to prove that social progress and tradition could coexist. As the foundation grew, Sarah's role became more demanding, pulling her further into the public eye. She began receiving invitations to speak at international conferences and gained recognition for her work in community empowerment. While she loved the impact she was making, the long hours and public attention took a toll on her relationship with Jacob. One evening, after a particularly long day, Sarah confided in Jacob, "Sometimes I feel like I'm spreading myself too thin. I'm so afraid of failing the foundation, and failing you." Jacob reassured her, holding her close. "You're not failing anyone, Sarah. You're building something incredible. I'm here to support you. No matter how hard it gets, we'll find a way to balance it all." Despite their mutual determination, they both felt the weight of their responsibilities pulling them in different directions, and they realized they would need to work even harder to keep their love strong amid the challenges. One evening, as Jacob and Sarah sat quietly in their study, savoring a rare moment of peace, Sarah took his hand and hesitated before speaking. "Jacob, I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant." The news hit Jacob like a wave of joy and awe. He felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and purpose, as if this new life growing inside Sarah was a testament to their love and resilience. They held each other, both thrilled and slightly terrified, knowing that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't fully imagine. This new chapter brought them closer together, solidifying their commitment to building a future not just for themselves, but for their child and the community they envisioned. With the news of their growing family, Jacob felt a renewed drive to push the boundaries of the Bennett legacy. At a high-profile event, he delivered a speech that outlined his vision for the company's transformation, an evolution from a traditional oil empire to a leader in renewable energy and social responsibility. Standing before the crowd, he spoke passionately about his dream to create a legacy his child could be proud of. "My family built this company, yes, but my wife and I are building a future, one that respects both the earth and the people on it. We want a world where our children can thrive, not just survive." The speech garnered a standing ovation, silencing many of his critics and earning the respect of several board members who had initially resisted his ideas. That night, Jacob felt more certain than ever that he was on the right path, ready to face whatever challenges remained. As Sarah's pregnancy progressed, Jacob and Sarah prepared for the arrival of their child, finding both joy and nervousness in this new chapter. Jacob took special care to create a warm, welcoming nursery filled with simple comforts, while Sarah found herself drawn to envisioning the future they would build for their child, a future where family, community, and legacy were intertwined. Their home felt fuller and more alive with each passing day, and Evelyn, Jacob's mother, softened in her views as she anticipated becoming a grandmother. Sarah's father, David, spent afternoons at the mansion, sharing stories of Sarah's childhood with Jacob, who cherished every detail as he imagined their future as a family of three. The shared excitement brought a calmness between Jacob and Sarah, creating a sanctuary from the pressures of the outside world. They knew the challenges that lay ahead, but with their love as a foundation, they felt ready to face them. With the foundation flourishing and the family business undergoing a transformation, Jacob and Sarah found themselves navigating an increasingly complex web of responsibilities. Sarah's foundation grew rapidly, and the demand for her presence at public events and conferences became more pressing. Meanwhile, Jacob's vision for sustainable energy and corporate responsibility faced continual resistance from those who clung to traditional models. Balancing work, family, and a growing public presence placed significant strain on both of them. There were nights when they barely saw each other, caught up in their respective commitments. Though they were united in purpose, the distance between them grew, and for the first time, they struggled to communicate openly about their frustrations and exhaustion. One night, after a particularly challenging day, Sarah expressed her concerns. "Jacob, I feel like we're drifting apart. We're both working so hard, but I miss us. I miss the moments when it was just the two of us against the world." Jacob took her hand, nodding solemnly. "I miss it too. We're building a future, but I don't want to lose sight of what brought us here. We'll find a way to balance it all. I promise." As Sarah's due date drew near, she experienced an unexpected complication that required an emergency trip to the hospital. The scare left both Jacob and Sarah shaken, realizing how fragile life truly was. The experience brought their priorities into sharp focus, reminding them that their commitment to each other and their child outweighed all other pressures. In the quiet moments of the hospital, Jacob held Sarah's hand, whispering promises to always put their family first. They both knew that something had to change if they were to keep their love strong amidst their growing responsibilities. Upon Sarah's discharge, Jacob took a temporary leave from the company, focusing instead on being present as Sarah's due date approached. He knew that time with her and their child was more valuable than any business achievement. His decision set an example for the family business, emphasizing the importance of personal well-being alongside professional ambition. One early morning, under a sky tinged with the soft colors of dawn, Sarah went into labor. The experience was intense, emotional, and transformative, leaving both Jacob and Sarah feeling a profound gratitude for the miracle of life. Together, they welcomed a beautiful baby boy, whom they named Samuel. Holding his son for the first time, Jacob felt an overwhelming surge of love and purpose. Every struggle, every sacrifice suddenly felt worthwhile. Samuel's tiny fingers wrapped around his father's thumb, grounding Jacob in a way he hadn't felt before. As he looked at Sarah, exhausted yet radiant, he knew their journey together had only just begun. Evelyn and David joined them, overcome with joy. And for the first time, the Bennett family felt united, filled with love and hope for the future. The experience strengthened their bonds, bridging the gaps that tradition and social expectations had once created. Life with a newborn brought unexpected challenges and changes. Jacob and Sarah adapted to sleepless nights and the endless needs of a newborn, learning to find joy in the small, intimate moments. Though it was exhausting, they were more connected than ever, united in their love for Samuel. Their days took on a new rhythm, filled with the simple beauty of family life. Sarah's father, David, spent time teaching Jacob how to carve small wooden toys for Samuel, a humble skill that connected them and bridged their worlds. Evelyn, once so wary of Sarah, grew to appreciate her resilience and grace, spending afternoons with her grandson and mending old wounds in her heart. The family grew closer, and Jacob felt as though they had finally created the life they had always dreamed of, a balance of love, family, and purpose. As Samuel grew, Sarah returned to her work with renewed determination, expanding the foundation to support even more women in need. The program now included vocational training, childcare services, and mentorship programs for young women from various backgrounds. Sarah's work attracted international attention, leading to invitations to speak at conferences and participate in global initiatives. Her compassion and dedication made her a powerful voice for change, though it also put pressure on their family life. The demands of her work, coupled with Jacob's responsibilities at the family business, tested their relationship once more. Despite the challenges, Jacob remained steadfast in his support for Sarah, recognizing the importance of her work. Together, they found a way to balance their responsibilities, carving out time for each other and their son, grounding themselves in the love that had brought them together. Just as life seemed to settle into a new normal, an unexpected crisis hit the foundation. Financial mismanagement from a newly appointed director led to a significant loss, casting doubt on the foundation's operations and prompting a public outcry. The scandal thrust Sarah into the spotlight, forcing her to defend the foundation's integrity amidst criticism. Stress and exhaustion weighed heavily on her, and for a brief moment, she considered stepping back. "I feel like I'm letting everyone down, Jacob," she confided, her voice laced with vulnerability. Jacob, seeing her pain, reassured her with unwavering support. "Sarah, you've built something extraordinary. This setback doesn't define you or the foundation. We'll get through this together, just as we've faced everything else." With Jacob's support, Sarah confronted the issue head-on, working tirelessly to rebuild trust within the community. Her resilience and transparency won the admiration of those around her, and slowly, the foundation regained its footing. The crisis ultimately strengthened Sarah's resolve, deepening her commitment to the foundation's mission. She restructured the leadership, ensuring the organization would be guided by values of accountability and integrity. The experience brought Jacob and Sarah closer, their bond strengthened by the challenges they had overcome together. Inspired by Sarah's dedication, Jacob implemented similar values within the family business, focusing on transparency and social responsibility. His work, once driven by profit, became a mission to create a sustainable and ethical legacy. One evening, as they watched Samuel play in the garden, Jacob took Sarah's hand. "We've been through so much, and we're stronger for it. Together, we're creating a legacy our son can be proud of, a legacy built on love, resilience, and compassion." Sarah leaned into him, a quiet joy filling her heart. "I never imagined we'd come this far, but I wouldn't trade any part of our journey. We're building something beautiful, Jacob." With their foundation thriving once more and their family business increasingly aligned with sustainable practices, Jacob and Sarah felt ready to bring their ultimate vision to life. Inspired by the values of inclusion, sustainability, and opportunity, they began planning Unity City, a self-sustaining community on the outskirts of Dubai. Unity City would be an oasis of renewable energy, cultural harmony, and economic empowerment. It would have accessible schools, healthcare facilities, and public spaces for residents from all backgrounds. Jacob imagined a place where Samuel and future generations could grow up embracing values of compassion and respect. Together, Jacob and Sarah worked tirelessly on the project, assembling a team of architects, sustainability experts, and community leaders who shared their vision. The blueprint for Unity City was bold and ambitious, a radical rethinking of urban life that prioritized people over profit. For Jacob, it was a way to honor his family's legacy while creating something new, something built on love and compassion rather than wealth alone. As the project took shape, Jacob and Sarah held community meetings to gather feedback from prospective residents. They invited families, entrepreneurs, and educators to share their ideas, fostering a spirit of inclusivity from the outset. These meetings became a space for open dialogue where everyone had a voice in shaping Unity City. The initiative attracted attention across Dubai and beyond, with media outlets covering the innovative project. Sarah, who had become a beloved public figure, gave interviews about the foundation's goals, emphasizing Unity City's purpose as a place where opportunity was available to everyone, regardless of background. Jacob's renewed connection with the family business also came into play. He proposed allocating a portion of the company's profits to support the community's sustainable infrastructure, further aligning the business with his values and giving Unity City a solid financial foundation. The gesture earned him respect from many who had once doubted him, proving that he was committed to creating meaningful change. Despite widespread enthusiasm, the project faced obstacles. Certain conservative figures within Dubai's elite questioned the practicality of Unity City, viewing it as an overly idealistic endeavor. Some believed the community would be too difficult to manage, given its focus on equality and diverse backgrounds. Marcus Hale, a prominent businessman and longtime family associate, voiced his concerns at a public forum. "Jacob, I admire your heart, but cities don't thrive on dreams alone. This is a risk, not just for your family, but for all of us who support the Bennett name." Jacob listened thoughtfully, addressing the concerns with conviction. Unity City isn't a risk. It's an investment in a better future. This is about giving back to the community and creating a legacy that reflects not just wealth but purpose. The debates were challenging, but Jacob and Sarah held firm in their vision. They reassured investors, adjusted plans to address concerns, and remained transparent about their goals. Their resilience inspired many to stand by them, and slowly, even their skeptics began to see the potential for success in Unity City. As construction of Unity City progressed, Jacob and Sarah worked closely with their team to honor Dubai's rich cultural heritage while incorporating modern innovations. They collaborated with local artisans and historians to design buildings that blended traditional Arabic architecture with sustainable materials and energy-efficient systems. The community spaces were designed to encourage intercultural dialogue, featuring gardens, amphitheaters, and markets where residents could share their heritage and traditions. Unity City became a place where different cultures were celebrated and where residents could learn from each other, strengthening the bonds of community. Evelyn, Jacob's mother, began to visit the construction site frequently, moved by the project's dedication to preserving her family's legacy while embracing change. She and Sarah grew closer during this period, bonding over shared values and their hopes for Samuel and future generations. 3 years after breaking ground, Unity City welcomed its first residents. The opening ceremony was a moment of triumph for Jacob and Sarah, who stood side by side as families moved into their new homes. The city was alive with the sounds of laughter and excitement as children explored playgrounds, and adults gathered in community centers to meet their neighbors. Unity City became a beacon of hope, attracting families from all walks of life. Young professionals, entrepreneurs, educators, and artists joined the community, drawn to its values of equality and sustainability. Sarah's foundation offered resources to help residents start businesses, pursue education, and contribute to the city's development, making Unity City a thriving hub of empowerment. As they watched the city come to life, Jacob and Sarah felt a profound sense of fulfillment. They had built not only a home for their family, but a legacy for future generations, a place where love, resilience, and unity formed the foundation of a thriving community. Life in Unity City brought new challenges as well as joys. Jacob and Sarah balanced their leadership roles with their responsibilities as parents, finding solace in their growing family. They welcomed twin daughters, Amelia and Grace, whose presence brought even more warmth and love into their lives. Samuel, now 5, became the heart of their home. He grew up surrounded by the diverse residents of Unity City, learning the values of compassion and inclusivity from an early age. Jacob and Sarah were determined to instill in their children the importance of humility and respect, teaching them that true wealth lay in the strength of their community. Amidst the busyness of their lives, Jacob and Sarah made time for each other, holding on to the love that had carried them through their journey. They shared quiet evenings in the garden, reflecting on the path they had taken and the family they had built, grateful for the sacrifices and challenges that had brought them here. Years passed, and Unity City continued to flourish. Jacob and Sarah's vision became a model for sustainable development, attracting attention from leaders around the world. Delegations visited the city, eager to learn from its values of inclusivity and environmental stewardship. Unity City had become more than just a home. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when people dared to dream beyond the confines of tradition. Jacob, now a respected leader, restructured the family business to prioritize social responsibility, ensuring that it aligned with the values Unity City embodied. Under his leadership, the company diversified into renewable energy, using profits to support community projects and scholarships for underprivileged youth. Sarah's foundation expanded its reach, empowering women across the UAE and beyond. Her work inspired others to invest in their communities, fostering a ripple effect of positive change that extended far beyond Unity City. One evening, as the sun set over Unity City, Jacob and Sarah gathered in the community garden with their children and extended family. Evelyn, once a woman of tradition, now embraced the simplicity and unity her son had built. David, Sarah's father, sat nearby, watching his grandchildren with pride. Jacob looked at Sarah, gratitude filling his heart. "Did you ever imagine we'd come this far?" he asked softly, taking her hand. Sarah's eyes sparkled with joy. "I always knew our love could move mountains. But this," she gestured around them, "this is beyond anything I could have dreamed." They stood together, surrounded by the community they had built, a living testament to the power of love, resilience, and shared purpose. In the heart of the desert, they had created an oasis of hope, proving that even the boldest dreams could take root and thrive. As the years passed, Unity City grew into a bustling metropolis of hope and opportunity. Jacob and Sarah's children, raised with the values of compassion and responsibility, became leaders in their own right, continuing their parents' work and extending the family's legacy of service. Unity City inspired similar communities across the world, a testament to what could be achieved when love and vision combined. For Jacob and Sarah, their journey was a reminder that true wealth was not measured in material success, but in the lives they had touched and the future they had created. The story of Unity City and the Bennett family became one of hope, a reminder that with love, resilience, and a commitment to something greater than oneself, even the grandest dreams could come true. As we close this incredible journey of love, resilience, and the pursuit of a brighter future, remember that legacies aren't built on wealth alone, but on the compassion and unity we create. If Jacob and Sarah's story inspired you to dream big, to believe in the power of love, or to work toward a better tomorrow, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more uplifting stories that explore the heart's deepest struggles and triumphs. And if you have thoughts on building a legacy of your own, share them in the comments below. Let's keep inspiring each other to make a difference, one story at a time. Until next time, stay hopeful, stay driven, and remember, you're part of this journey too. Thanks for watching.